Good evening, everyone. But let us go ahead and let us continue with the different schools of economics. We had already gone ahead and we had already done 4 schools of economics. And today I am going to go ahead and I'm going to do the remaining 4-5 schools of economics. Okay. The first one that I want to focus on is supply side economics. बहुत important है, बहुत ज़्यादा. ठीक है. So supply side economics, first let me tell you कि क्या था पूरा ये. The supply side economics, basically it gained its popularity during 1970s. ठीक है. Why it gained its popularity? Because, अच्छा देखो, when we were talking about Keynes, so Keynes ने aggregate demand की side पे अपना सारा focus करना शुरू कर दिया था. He started focusing on aggregate demand, right? Before that, when we were talking about classicals, so classicals were focusing on the supply side. वो बोलते थे that supply creates its own demand. So you see every now and then ये जो हमारा thought process है that whether supply will dominate or demand will dominate, this thought process continuously changes. ये change होता रहता है, right? So when we talk about supply side economics is basically, as the name suggests, it focused on the supply side. हाँ, सारा जो भी हमारा focus था वो supply के through focus था, and it gained its popularity during 1970s. Why it gained its popularity? Because during that time we had stagflation. So we had the presence of stagnation plus inflation. Stagnation माने क्या? Stagnation माने the output was low. It was less than full employment. Employment was low. Unemployment was high. Right? And at the same time, क्या देखा गया? That the prices were increasing. The prices were increasing. तो ये दोनों ही चीजें they were happening hand in hand. ये भी हो रहा था और वो भी हो रहा था. And that is why we can go ahead and we can call this as a situation where we wanted to understand something new. कुछ अलग चाहिए था. During that period, we had 2 important people. Actually, 3 important people. The first important person who came into picture उस टाइम पे जो बहुत important थे, वो थे रॉबर्ट मुंडेल. The second person, जो आपको definitely you need to remember that is Arthur Laffer. ठीक है. और जो third important person थे, he was actually not an economist, but he was actually the president of US economy, which was Ronald Reagan. ठीक है. So these are the 3 names. अगर आप कहीं पे भी supply side economics word पढ़ो, these are the 3 main names that you need to go ahead and you need to remember. Now, what is the theory of supply side economics? क्या बोलते थे supply side economists? So they used to go ahead and they used to suggest that we want to go ahead and we want people to invest more. हमें firms को encourage करना है that they should be investing more. And if I want the firms to invest more, if I want people to invest more, तो पहले हमें उनके पास पैसा बचाना होगा. We want people to save money. And how can people save money? People will be able to save money if we will be able to lower the rate of taxation. So यहाँ पर जो इनका complete focus था, the focus was on lowering the rate of taxation. Lowering the rate of taxation. पहले हमें ये करना था कि somehow we want to reduce the amount of taxes in the economy. Now, when we will reduce the taxes in the economy, so automatically people will have more disposable income. लोगों के पास ज्यादा पैसा होगा. And when people will have more disposable income, there will be more savings and more investment in the economy. So higher savings and higher investment in the economy. दोनों ही ज्यादा हो जाएंगे. Savings भी ज्यादा होगा और investment भी ज्यादा होगा. Now, when saving and investment will be more, So more investment means what? That business will flourish, है ना? Business will work better, organizations will work better. So this will go ahead and this will generate more income and more employment. इसी से इनकम भी बढ़ेगा और एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी बढ़ेगा. So this is the main concept of supply side economics. Supply side economics basically goes ahead and says that we want to focus on lowering the amount of taxation. हमें taxes को कम करना है. If we will go ahead and we will lower the taxation, automatically investment in the economy will increase. और जब investment बढ़ेगी तो income and employment will automatically increase. At the same time, it said that we don't need a lot of role of the government. हमें government का बहुत ज्यादा role नहीं चाहिए. So we are saying that in the economic matters, जहां पे भी wherever money is involved, wherever income is involved, wherever jobs are involved, we want to discourage the role of the government. Government का कम से कम role चाहिए economic affairs में, right? So we want to discourage the role of government in economic affairs. Economic matter mein we want to go ahead and we want to have as less role of the government as possible. Now, what happened is that this individual, especially Arthur Laffer, but he went ahead and he gave something which is called as Laffer curve. उन्होंने एक चीज दी जिसे हमने बोला Laffer curve. Now, what is Laffer curve? Laffer curve, because pura supply side economics, it is based on the concept of taxation. So Laffer curve was basically an economic way of representing this taxation. कि कैसे हम taxes कितना collect कर सकते हैं? How much tax can be collected? Absolutely correct. So it was a relationship between tax rate and tax revenue. तो हमने एक relationship develop किया. And what that relationship is saying, इस relationship ने बताया that there is a U-shaped curve, and here you have tax rate, and here you have tax revenue. So every government wants to collect as much tax revenue as possible. जितना ज़्यादा tax collect कर पाए, हर government का aim होता है that it goes ahead and it collects more taxes. But Laffer suggested that if you increase the tax rate beyond a point, your tax revenue will in fact fall. एक point के बाद अगर आप tax rate बढ़ाते जाओगे, suppose this is tax rate T. If I increase tax rate beyond T, then my tax revenue will actually start falling. मेरा tax revenue गिरना शुरू हो जाएगा, right? So he said that there is a U-shaped relationship. Initially, of course, अगर tax rate zero होगा तो tax revenue will also be zero. But as you increase the tax rate, then the tax revenue will increase. जैसे जैसे tax rate बढ़ाओगे, tax revenue बढ़ेगा. Later, after this tax rate, as you increase the tax rate, tax revenue will decrease. Why? क्यों कम हो जाएगा tax revenue? Because here people will be discouraged to work. Now, if I tell you, suppose I tell you tax rate is 90%. Money, if you earn 100 rupees, you have to pay 90 rupees as tax. So, will you work for only 10 rupees? No. Very less people will work. They will be discouraged to work. उनको काम करने का मन ही नहीं करेगा कि सारा तो गवर्नमेंट ही ले रही है. Everything is taken by government. Why should we work? So as tax rate continuously increases, जैसे यहाँ पर tax rate is 100%. So no one will work. कोई भी काम नहीं करेगा. So at this point, tax revenue will again become zero. So when you have a very high tax rate, then people don't want to work. And the tax revenue collected will actually fall. क्योंकि कोई काम ही नहीं करेगा तो ये tax कहाँ से collect करेंगे? We won't be able to collect tax if no one is working. So there is this U-shaped curve that was given by Laffer, and this is very important. ये बहुत ही important है ये U-shaped curve. Very very important. ठीक है. एक और चीज है जो supply side economics में आई. So one is the names. The second is this Laffer curve. ये आपको याद रखना है. The third is this process of lowering the taxation. Another thing suggested by supply side economics, उन्होंने क्या suggest किया, that we need to go ahead and we need to have trickle down process. We need to have trickle down process. Trickle down process का word का क्या मतलब है? What does trickling down mean? It means we want to provide, you can write this down, we want to provide incentive to people to invest, thereby leading to first increased production, increased supply of goods, increased income. Okay, and you can also say here decline in price level if required. ठीक है, तो क्या बोला उन्होंने? इसी चीज को, this thing, that what happens when investment increases, they called that as trickle down process. उन्होंने इसी चीज को बोला trickle down process. It means somehow we have to provide incentive to people, किसी तरीके से. अब ये incentive हम लोगों को कैसे दे सकते हैं? We can provide incentive to people to invest by reducing taxes. Tax कम कर दो, वो investment बढ़ा देंगे. By giving subsidies, right? By bringing some long-term policies that if you invest for 5 years, your return will double, या ऐसा कुछ. So we need to give them some incentive. कुछ एक incentive दो उन्हें. Why we need to give them incentive? So that they can go ahead and they can invest more. And when they will invest, जब वो investment करेंगे, so automatically it will go ahead and it will mean that there will be higher production. क्योंकि ये investment क्या होगा? Investment in economy is what? What? Investment in economy is investment by the firms. And when firms invest more, तो automatically उनको ज़्यादा employment create करते हैं वो. More people will get job. More employment means more output will be generated. Supply of goods will increase. More employment means people will have more income. Right? So more supply of goods and service will take place. ठीक है? और इसी को ही उन्होंने supply side economics का नाम दिया. They started calling this as the supply side economics. So they also said that this can lead to a decrease in price level, because this is demand, this is supply. So when we will start increasing the supply of good, automatically the price will come down. And why they call, क्यों उन्होंने बात की price को नीचे लाने के लिए? Why they talked about reducing the price? Because this was a period of stagflation. ये वो period था जिसमें हमारे पास stagflation था, stagnation plus inflation. So we had to somehow reduce the inflation. किसी तरीके से हमें prices को नीचे लेके आना था. So this trickle down process that they suggested, उन्होंने ये जो process suggest किया, इसका क्या aim था? What was the aim of trickle down process? To somehow come out of stagflation. And stagflation has two things. Stagnation, जिसमें output नहीं change हो रहा था. So they suggested how we can increase output. And inflation, they suggested how to reduce the prices. Right? So उस टाइम पे एक अच्छा पॉलिसी जो था, it worked really well, that the government started reducing the taxes. Government ने taxes को कम करना start कर दिया on the suggestion of Arthur Laffer. ठीक है? This is the supply side economics. इतना ही है that you need to remember. Let's go to the notes once. So supply side economics में you have some key figure given to you, Arthur Laffer and Ronald Reagan. ठीक है? क्या क्या था? What were the key ideas? The first was tax cuts and incentives. सबसे पहला ये है कि आप taxes को कम करो. You reduce the taxes. You give people incentive to invest. Right? फिर दूसरा चीज जिस पे बात की गई, that was the Laffer curve. And the third thing was deregulation. which means we need limited role of the government. हमें government का बहुत ज्यादा role नहीं चाहिए. Assumption. Lower taxes lead to higher economic growth, increased job creation, higher tax revenue in the long run. Criticism. They criticize that supply side benefit the wealthy and lead to greater income inequality. इस पे थोड़ा सा बात कर लेते हैं. So now just think. See, when you lower taxes, तो taxes, why are taxes important? क्या करते हैं taxes? Taxes are used to reduce inequality. Right? How? Because we go ahead and we collect tax from rich and shift that money to poor. हम rich से पैसा लेते हैं और poor में transfer करते हैं. That's the role of tax, right? One of the role of tax. Now, when we reduce the taxes, in a way, we are benefiting the rich more than the poor. ज्यादा फायदा किसको होगा? जो अमीर होगा, जिसके पास पैसा ज्यादा है, जो ज्यादा टैक्स दे रहा था. So the rich will be benefited more than the poor, right? And it can lead to higher inequality and income gaps, right? So this is one of the criticism. ये इसका एक criticism है that they argue that supply side policies disproportionately affect the wealthy. वो ज्यादा benefit किसको देते हैं? It go ahead and it affects the, it is more helpful to the wealthy than the poor. ठीक है. Now let's talk about Austrian economics. Not much has been said about Austrian economics. बहुत ज्यादा कुछ नहीं है. But let me just give you some key important information. First of all, exam में what they can go ahead and ask is, they can ask you when was this originated. तो Austrian school of thought कुछ नया नहीं है. It's a very old school of thought and it actually originated in 1871, right? And there was a book, एक publication था, which was called as Principles of Economics, right? And this was given by Karl Menger, right? He is actually called as the father of Austrian school of thought. इनको father of Austrian school भी बोला जाता है. So he wrote a book, a publication in 1871. उसका नाम था Principles of Economics. And that is where he started bringing out these ideas. The first important idea that he brought, जो सबसे important पहला चीज उन्होंने दिया था, that was actually the concept of marginal utility. Now, this is always very confusing. ये हमेशा एक confusion create करता है. That was marginal utility concept given by Menger or was it given by Marshall? So actually it was Menger who first talked about marginal utility. सबसे पहले Menger ने बात की थी marginal utility के बारे में. But Marshall went ahead and he popularized this concept. जिस economist ने उसको popularity दिया, someone who gave it another level, who brought it into the world, was Marshall. ठीक है? If someone asks me and gives me both the option, किसी ने मेरे को बोला कि marginal utility was given by and Menger and Marshall both are given, then answer is Menger. But if someone asks me marginal utility was popularized by, किसने उसको popular किया, then I will go ahead and I will say Marshall. Popular Marshall ने किया, it was but introduced by Menger. ठीक है? So this is the first thing कि they talked about marginal utility. Now, what they talked about, another important thing me just go here. That was something called as the theory of value. The theory of value. Gaussian's law is no. Gaussian's law is diminishing marginal utility. We are not talking about Gaussian law. We are just talking about the concept of marginal utility. What is marginal utility? That's it. It's true that rich make greater investment. So, no, not always. If the rich is benefiting more, does not mean that economy will be socially benefited. We need to also consider the fact that kabhi bhi, see, there are two aspects to economy. One is called as growth. One is called as development. Growth only considers increase in GDP. Income बढ़ गया तो growth हो गया. Development considers reduction in poverty, reduction in inequality, increase in human development index, plus increase in GDP. So when we say that, okay, हमने tax कम किया, investment increased, yes, output can increase. But will it reduce poverty? Will it reduce inequality? Those are the questions which are not answered. That is what is a limitation of the supply side economics. कि हम इसके बारे में नहीं ज्यादा बात कर रहे हैं, that it can also lead to higher inequality. वो चीज हमें consider करना है. We need to go ahead and we need to consider that, right? Okay. So theory of value. Achha, tell me something. Suppose I give you two cases. There is a laborer who is digging a hole in the land. वो जमीन को खोदे जा रहा है, and he has dug about 100 feet below. Every day he is doing hard work. रोज वो जाता है, he picks some sand, he keeps it aside. Again, every day he does the same work. There is another laborer. He has only dug it 3 feet below. ठीक है, but ये वाला जो लेबर है जिसने सिर्फ 3 feet below dig किया, he found gold just 3 feet below, and यहाँ पे there is nothing. So who will be valued more? Of course, this person. Second labor, definitely. Does it matter how much hard work he has put and how much he has put? No. It also matters that what is the importance of the product that you are getting. वही है theory of value. So theory of value says, very important thing given by them. Theory of value says that the sum, or we can say the value of the product is not equal to the value of labor and material that goes into it. Here I have given 100 hours to build this. Here I have given only 3 hours to dig this. But this is more valuable because this is more important. तो इससे फर्क नहीं है कि कितना लेबर दिया, कितना मटेरियल दिया, कितना रॉ मटेरियल I used. That will not determine the value of the product. No, it is determined by how important it is. कितना important है, that will determine the value of the product. And this concept is called as theory of value. And this is one of the most important concept given by Austrian school. बहुत important है.